Hi, everybody. We are live and a warm welcome to all of you. And thank you for joining us for another installment of Edugo.AI webinars. I am Nicole Carvelli, the company BD executive, and I'm currently speaking from Italy. Today, I'm excited to have you all here since we are going to face one of the biggest topics in language education today, that is blended learning. And to do that, we have with us Sophia Mavridi and Giuseppe Tomasello as our special speaker. And in just a few minutes, they are going to navigate all of us through this topic. So before start, I would like to ask you all guys to drop a message in the chat box and telling us where are you from. So we'd like to see how international are we today. All the while, I'd ask Giuseppe and Sophia to give us a brief introduction of yourselves. So please, Sophia, would you like to start?
Absolutely. So hello, everybody. It's fantastic to be here. I'm Sophia Mavridi, and I'm based in Leicester in the UK. It's a very cloudy day, which is quite typical, although it's summer. So I'm a lecturer in digital technologies and English language teaching in higher education in the UK. And at the moment, I'm designing online and blended learning courses, the syllabus, the materials. And I'm also a researcher in digital learning and a teacher trainer, providing consultation to institutions and teachers around the world. And I would say that digital language learning has been my specialism for years, long before it became popular because of COVID and emergency remote teaching. So I'm really glad I'm here with you to share this knowledge and passion.
Perfect. Thank you, Sophia. And Giuseppe, would you like?
Yes, thank you, Sophia, for the introduction. Actually, it's a great pleasure to be here today with an expert like you to talk about this really interesting topic. And so my name is Giuseppe Tomasello. For those of you who are new to the Edugo webinars, I'm actually the company founder and CEO. I started this company 4 years ago with the idea of helping teachers to become better thanks to the use of AI technology, and actually to expand what is the human interaction that is at the core of language learning. So as Sophia said, we start to actually working in this problem long before COVID-19 and emergency learning. And we discover many approaches that works really well online, to teach online, and are really effective thanks to the use of artificial intelligence. And today, actually, we're going to see from one angle which is blended learning, and how actually our technology can help teachers and educators and also learners to learn better using technology together with offline learning. So I'm really excited today to go through this topic. And so the structure of the presentation will be Sophia first will give us a theoretical background, and we'll talk about all the research and the discoveries that are around blended learning. And then we are going to show at the end of the presentation the use case and a real case study of Edugo.AI and how we apply those theories in practice. So please stay with us till the end because we're going to show to you actually how the technology works and how you can actually apply it as well inside your classroom. So yeah, looking forward to talk to you, to introduce our product later. And stay with us till the end. If you have any question, we are going to answer to all the questions, both me and Sophia, at the end of the presentation.
Exactly. So Giuseppe anticipated a little bit the agenda of today's webinar. So first, we will discover what is the blended learning, and we will define it, as well as we will move pedagogical and practical consideration in the face-to-face classroom and the online language classroom. We are also going to talk about e-safety and digital responsibility. And at the end, we are going to showcase the Edugo.AI platform as a possible solution to implement blended teaching. So at the end, there is the Q&A session, but remember that the chat box will always stay open till the end. So feel free to ask us everything you'd like to. So at this point, I think that we are ready to start. So Sophia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let me see now. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Fantastic. So thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Giuseppe. So let's get started. I think it's pretty certain that most of you, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of you have done some form of remote teaching during COVID-19. And at first, it may have been bumpy because institutions, managers, teachers were thrown in at a deep end, literally, and had to move online really fast. And given the circumstances, they did a great job, but they also faced challenges, many challenges, I would say, with the technology, with the pedagogy, with the increased workload and more. And my research, which is going to be published soon, explored all these issues associated with this shift from face-to-face to online. But as re-entry planning begins, and some of you might already be in the physical, back in the physical classroom. Some of you may still be teaching online. I still teach online. There is a lot of discussion about the following academic year and what blended learning actually promises to do is to combine the best of both worlds. So today, this is what we're going to be looking at. How we can design pedagogically sound, blended learning experiences for language learning. So first of all, let's define blended learning. What is blended learning for you? I'm not looking for academic, or very sophisticated definitions. I want you to tell me, how do you understand blended learning? So what is blended learning for you? Just type in the chat. For some reason, I can't see the chat. So, it was a headache at the beginning. Russia. So, using two forms, online and offline, a combination between online and offline. Good. A combination of face-to-face teaching and online teaching. Combination. Yes. Okay, good. So you are fantastic. Excellent. So I'm going to share two definitions because there are a number of definitions with regards to blended learning. So the first one refers to blended learning as any combination of face-to-face teaching, as we said, with computer technology, with the internet and computers, online and offline activities and materials. So from this definition, we see that blended learning has a face-to-face component, that's for sure. And this face-to-face component dominates, and the online component supplements the face-to-face component. The second one, let's have a look at the second one, is more flexible and refers to any combination, not necessarily face-to-face with online. It might be online with online. So any combination of delivery in order to optimize, to enhance, to improve the learning experience. And I think you may agree with me that during COVID and after COVID, right after COVID, as re-entry planning begins and as we return back to the classroom, this is where we are or where we should be. We should be flexible enough to blend, to combine any mode of delivery to maximize language learning. Face-to-face, now this is interesting. Face-to-face is not the default anymore. The pandemic made this clear. There is no reason whatsoever to have a lecture if you teach at a university, or a lesson if you teach at a school, to do exactly the same things that you would do if this delivery was online. Why would students spend time to commute to school or the university? Some may need to relocate. So we need to do something that is specific to face-to-face. So the face-to-face needs to have a reason to be face-to-face, and likewise, the online needs to have a reason to be online. It needs to be quality online, for example. It needs to be designed in a pedagogically sound way. Just taking a face-to-face course, for example, and moving it onto Zoom is not online learning. It is emergency remote teaching, and we've seen a lot of this during the pandemic. And that was great, of course, because during the emergency, of course, we will do emergency, we will have an emergency response. But now things and expectations are shifting. So, now, before COVID, a blended learning classroom would look something like this. 2 components, one face-to-face in the classroom, and the other asynchronous via a platform like Moodle, Google Classroom, etc., where students interact with the materials. This is what I mean, asynchronous. Synchronous, I'm sure everybody has familiarized themselves now with these terms, but just for the record, synchronous means in real time. This training session right now is synchronous, but it is not face-to-face, it is online. And if you watch the recording, that would be asynchronous, which means not in real time. So the asynchronous component is where students will engage with the materials. But I need to say something here, that the asynchronous component is not the homework that we will assign to students as a follow-up to what we do in the classroom. It counts as hours of instruction, as hours of delivery, if it is structured and designed as such, either via interactive materials, and Giuseppe will showcase how you may create them, for asynchronous learning, or recordings, or self-correct, autocorrect quizzes, etc. Now, because of the pandemic, this pandemic has been really transformational. So during and after COVID, the framework, of course, and the pedagogy need to become more open and more flexible to cater for the needs and the challenges that this pandemic generates and will be generating for quite some time. We are not finished. So look at the blend 1 here. So the face-to-face, blend 1 is the face-to-face plus the asynchronous. So here, there may be practical implications. So we have face-to-face teaching, but this might involve social distancing. So we may not be able to do the pair work and the group work that we are used to doing in the face-to-face classroom. So we will talk about that later and ways around it. But there will be pedagogical implications. So we have this blend 1, the synchronous face-to-face with the asynchronous component, which is, as we said, the interactive materials on our LMS, Moodle, Blackboard, Edmodo, etc. Or you might opt for blend 2. The second blend is the online blend, where we teach exclusively online, because there might be another lockdown, or we will need to blend the asynchronous and the asynchronous online, because this is how our students want to learn. They want to do the course exclusively online, regardless of the lockdown, because they prefer, for example. So at the moment, we may think that teachers will be doing blend 1, but they may need to do blend 2 at some point. And so my suggestion is that we will need to be able to switch from modality to modality very easily. This is my advice until this pandemic is totally behind us. Now, after the pandemic, you may be doing either blend 1 or blend 2. But for the next year, what I would say, be ready to swap, okay, the blends from face-to-face to put it online, the synchronous and the asynchronous. Did you notice that it is the only constant here? It becomes increasingly important. And it is an important modality because also students can access it at any time if they have access to the internet, because we cannot assume that all students and everybody in the world have access to the internet. There are big, I would say, increasingly big digital divides, but this is another topic, so I'm not going to go into that. So the students with access to the internet can access the asynchronous component anytime. The synchronous bits, the face-to-face and the online synchronous bits are great, are fantastic for building rapport, for social presence, but it puts some students at a disadvantage if they don't have the same access to devices or technology. Or with the pandemic still around, the face-to-face will need to cater for those who will not be attending the class. So again, the asynchronous bit becomes extremely important. So whether you do blend 1 or 2 in your blended learning, I would say we need to be able to swap the synchronous modalities as needed. Now, my favorite bit. For those of you who know me, you know that this is my favorite bit. So to blend it up, as I like to call it, to give our courses a blended learning approach, there's some principles that we need to take into consideration, some pedagogical aspects specific to each mode of learning. Because if we take, I think I said that before earlier, if we take a face-to-face pedagogy curriculum and try to fit it into the online learning framework, this will fail. Simply because people learn differently when they are in person than when they are online. And also they learn differently when they participate synchronously from when they participate asynchronously. So if courses are not designed according to these principles, then we have exhausted teachers, we have exhausted students, and the experience is not good for either of them. And we don't want that. So the face-to-face, remember, blend 1, face-to-face, students and teachers go to the face-to-face classroom, and then they have another component, the asynchronous component, that students interact with the materials. Forget the asynchronous component for the time being, because I'm going to talk about that in a bit. Now, let's see what's happening with this synchronous face-to-face mode with this component, blend 1. So first of all, we need to think about the skills that we will be teaching face-to-face. So what parts of the lesson, for example, can be covered asynchronously? Remember, why would you do something in the classroom if students can do it asynchronously perfectly well? So you leave that for the asynchronous. It's not easy. We will talk about that later on, what's happening with the asynchronous mode. But we leave that for the asynchronous, and we do synchronously what we cannot do asynchronously. So number 2, it should complement, the face-to-face mode should complement our asynchronous mode. What we do asynchronously with what we do synchronously, what we do face-to-face, should be a coherent whole, not two separate things together. So number 3, I would say think about potential social distancing. We will need to find ways for students to collaborate at a distance, in the same classroom, but at a distance, because they might need to social distance, to apply social distancing restrictions in the classroom. So think about that, because if we don't think about that, our classrooms will become very teacher-centered, and we don't want that, I'm sure. But you don't want that. So Google Docs, for example, OneNote, other collaborative tools become important here if, of course, students have access to Wi-Fi in the classroom. Because we might not be able to have 2 students sitting together at the same desk and working like they did in the past. Now, think about absentees, because with the pandemic still around, there might be absentees. They might not be necessarily sick, but if someone, from their environment is sick, they might need to isolate. So I would say that here, short orientation videos of what you did in the face-to-face classroom would be very useful, and you can upload them for the asynchronous classroom for students to watch what you did in the synchronous classroom. Take good advantage of the face-to-face modality for community building and socializing. It is an amazing modality for this. Make time for this, because the face-to-face environment is the ideal place for building rapport. And to do that, we should resist the temptation as leaders and as curriculum makers and as teachers, but teachers sometimes don't have a say. It is the decision makers who decide what the curriculum should consist of. So as curriculum makers, we should resist the temptation to dive right into a full curriculum from the beginning, but create time for teachers to build a community culture so that students feel connected with their classmates and the teacher. So take advantage of this, and think of course, about assessment. If you have, for example, tests, it is better to administer tests, exams in the face-to-face classroom, while portfolios, leave them for the asynchronous mode. Now, let me check the time. Okay. So now the synchronous, okay? So we are going now to blend 2, the synchronous. If all your learning, your teaching is synchronous, and you have the online mode on Teams, Zoom, Skype, whatever platform you're using, and the asynchronous component. So, so first, I would say reliable computer and internet connection is a must. If you don't have it, I would say use an Ethernet cable that connects your computer to the router. We can't teach online if our bandwidth and equipment are not reliable. Headsets will help as well, but it depends on the computer. Not all computers need them. If the teacher's connection is weak, then they can't share screen in the same way. They can't do breakout rooms in the same way, and the experience is weak. So it may sound a bit blunt and upfront, but live classes rely on good bandwidth and devices. Without this, the quality drops considerably, and it becomes emergency remote teaching. So likewise, professionalism is key. And I'm sure you're all excellent professionals, but what happens online is that the online modality tends to blur the boundaries between professional and personal, because we might want to wear our pajamas and slippers, and this is fine as long as what people see is professional. But we cannot appear, I would say, with an out of bed look, for example. It's not professional. We can't eat. We can't do social media. I'm teaching and I'm doing some Facebook. No, if we treat it with a laid back attitude, then it will be laid back and students will be laid back too. So professionalism is important and it has implications on the pedagogy. If we treat online teaching as inferior, then it will be inferior. Now, in terms of cameras, I would say the teacher's camera should be on at all times, but the teacher should make sure they have a plain wall behind them. Of course, you can use virtual backgrounds, just have in mind that they might slow your bandwidth. Now, with regards to students' cameras, that's a big question. I would say it's a great feature. And it is good to have. So if the school policy allows it, I would say yes, all the way. If the school policy now says no, no cameras, then the school policy is right. I'm not here to critique or challenge any school policy, as there are contextual issues such as particular privacy concerns, for example. So what I'm talking about here is the pedagogy. And I can confidently say that cameras maximize social presence. People learn better when they are not avatars and black screens, when they see other people and when they are seen by other people. So this is researched and documented. However, be aware, again, that it slows down bandwidth. So if there are individual issues with students' bandwidth, then you might need to accommodate on an individual basis. So, of course, we need to ask short questions every 3 to 5 minutes to maintain their attention, to keep them on their toes, to keep them in the zone. Use interactive tools such as polls to engage students. There's so many amazing interactive tools. That said, not all the time. It is a myth that we need to use all the time Kahoot and Google Clap and interaction. If you teach for 50 minutes, for example, you can't use Kahoot and polls for 15 minutes. This is too long. I would say using bells and whistles and various cool tools unnecessarily can distract students. So vary the technique and add some interactivity. And absolutely breakout rooms for speaking and group work and for making the class more student-centered, because let's face it, live classes online are mainly teacher-centered, and that's why we need to embrace the breakout rooms. So the asynchronous bit now, the asynchronous bit, I would say from the beginning that the asynchronous bit takes some time to design. It is not just 3 exercises that you give students to do for homework and call this asynchronous learning. It is not. It counts as hours of instruction. If it is structured and well designed, this is not a bank of materials either that students will go and choose from. It is a series of tasks that students will need to do before their live class. And Giuseppe will show you a technology to create interactive materials. But there are 4 considerations that I would like to share with you with regards to asynchronous learning. So I would say that asynchronous learning doesn't mean learning in isolation. It needs teacher presence, teacher support, and interaction with peers, only not at the same time. So there should be communication channels. Checklists are very, very important. They help the student to understand what they have to do. And it is presence. Presence doesn't mean that you need to be there. Presence is not the same as embodiment. Okay, you might be present at a distance, sorry. So instructional design is key, because the activities that we ask students to do asynchronously need to be designed for asynchronous learning. We can't just use activities that were designed for face-to-face learning. Or if we use them, because I understand that during the pandemic, we don't have the time to redesign everything. Simply, we can't do it. Let's be realistic. So we can adapt those by breaking them up in chunks and adding some interactivity, adding some questions, for example, simply because this is a different modality. For example, videos. We should be short and interactive. Anything more than 5 minutes, I would say, should be broken up. Otherwise, students have difficulty in focusing. We can't just post a video, for example, and ask students to do a summary. This is not asynchronous learning unless we teach PhD students, for example. Okay, if we teach PhD students, absolutely, give them a 30-minute video. But for mainstream students, the cognitive load is enormous. So we need to break it up. Add an element of interactivity, and even a simple PDF can be made more interactive if we add some questions in between. So whatever the input, break it down in chunks. Now, skills. I think I mentioned that earlier. Think about how you teach skills, language skills. What skills can you teach remotely? Reading, for example, is a skill that perhaps can be taught remotely. I say perhaps because we need, more research is needed here. But in my research, this is what I found, that teachers are happier to teach reading remotely. But we need to include some pre-reading tasks. It's not just, okay, take this reading and read it and do this multiple choice. It is much more than this. So we need to do to add some pre-reading tasks to activate students' knowledge and ask them to take notes. So ask them to take a self-correct quiz, for example, after the reading to check their answers. And forums. I love forums. I would say they are an essential ingredient of every asynchronous class. So if you're not familiar, forums are threaded discussions via Edmodo, Moodle, Google Classroom, WhatsApp. So as a follow-up of a video of a reading activity asynchronously, ask students a question and ask them to engage with a question, to engage in a discussion in a forum and interact and read their classmates' answers, for example, and have a discussion with them. Please have a look at this 3-part post here at the end that you will see. You will see it in the references because it includes information on how to set up forums and how to moderate them. And Giuseppe will showcase a technology that has all these characteristics later on. So, is safety and digital responsibility part of the criteria and the pedagogical considerations that should inform our decisions are those associated with digital responsibility and e-safety. And as a teacher trainer, I get to listen to teachers' concerns and questions about these issues all the time. And for many teachers, especially those teachers who teach young learners, these are big barriers to technology integration because they find it difficult to deal with the challenges that students face when they use technology. So This is a massive topic, and I have done extensive research, and I could devote a whole training course on it. But in short, just to get you into the thinking zone, I would say that it is very, very important that we teach students to respect copyright laws and avoid plagiarism. When we teach online or blended. In the era of open access, it is so easy to find information and copy and paste it and pass it off as your own. But this is not ethical. And more importantly for us, language teachers, students are not going to learn the language if they just copy and paste. But the thing is that the only way to avoid plagiarism is to show students how to avoid it. If we just point the finger at them, they're not going to listen. Did you know that many students plagiarize because they don't know how to synthesize information into their own original arguments? So we need to help them to develop these skills. I hope you can't hear the external noise that I hear. Huge apologies. I don't know what's going on. It's a van. It's going. It's a van outside, and I hope it's not disturbing for you. So teach students to interact effectively, because we are asking them to interact online, but do they know how to do it? How do they know how to be effective communicators? This doesn't come by default. We need to teach them. So to be able to voice their opinion in a respectful way. And also, because there is a lot of cyberbullying, trolling, etc., to know how to handle disrespectful behaviors or cyberbullying, both proactively and reactively. Of course, I would say teach them to manage their digital footprint, not in a scary way, because scary tactics are really ineffective. But sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Just really slightly background noise. So
okay. Thank you. So, but there is no such thing as complete privacy when it comes to the digital world. So when we are online, even a private conversation should be considered as public, because it is so easy to share and reproduce and spread. So whatever we do online, and students need to know that, positive or negative, is part of our digital footprint, and we cannot delete it or take it back ever. And of course, digital distractions. I'm smiling because it's a favorite topic of mine. I think it is a very, very important topic. I think that we are in the era of distraction, of digital distraction. It's a massive area, and technology is distracting. And this distraction needs to be managed. Again, it won't happen by default. Quite the opposite. The more we use technology, the more distracted we become. And it has become even worse during COVID, because our students are surrounded by technology, and we are surrounded by technology as well. So it is a difficult one. I'm not saying it is easy, but we need to help students to develop the skills to manage their distractions. In January 2020, just before the pandemic, I gave a keynote at BET conference, which is a huge conference in London. I think it is the biggest event in educational technology worldwide, and it was attended by thousands of people. So the keynote was on digital distractions, and that was pre-COVID, but it is more relevant than ever. So have a look at the recording. You will find it in the references. I have also written an article for Cambridge University Press. So have a look if you're interested in the topic of digital distractions. The good news is that the online and blended environments are ideal to teach these skills in context, because students can reflect directly on these skills while practicing them. And you don't need extra time if you embed these skills into the curriculum. It will actually save you time, I would say. So finishing, just to say something extra for young learners. With young learners, we need to be extra proactive about the tools that we use, not in a scary way, but many of the tools that are available are not appropriate for young learners. So what I'm going to say here is that free tools, think about this, free tools are not always the safest tools, and there are quite a few issues with privacy. If a tool is free, because I understand we cannot purchase all the tools that we use, if the tool is free, select the ones that do not require sign up or too much information from the students. Especially for young learners, this is a must. No sign up for young learners. Think before you post your students' photos online, because especially in Europe, with the privacy regulations, this is not permitted. Provide them with the links. Just don't let them go online and search whatever. I know that we cannot avoid it. They might be doing it. But what I'm saying is that our pedagogy should be more supportive with regards to this. So provide them with 10 links and tell them, okay, use these 10 links, use from these 10 links 3 for your project. Teach them about privacy. It is never too early to talk about privacy with young learners. And of course, involve parents so that together you can have a strategy about how, because they will need to supervise their kids, but again, not in a threatening manner. So that's from me. Here are the references. Feel free to take a picture if you want. Thank you very, very much for your attention. And I'm going to share my contact details at the end. And now I'm going to hand over to Giuseppe and see you at the end in the Q&A. Over to you, Giuseppe.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Actually, it was really insightful and interesting presentation. I got a lot of value from it. And actually, I have a lot of considerations that I would like to explore. But right now, actually, we have 10 minutes to, show a real case or real application of some of those principles in Edugo.AI platform. So this is going to be like a short case study. Of course, we can explore more details if you guys want at the end during the Q&A. So right now, we're going to actually show you some of the features of our platform and how actually our platform can be used in order to do blended learning. And to connect to what Sophia actually described, according to the Sophia framework, actually, our platform can be used both for blend kind 1 and blend kind 2. So, but the one we're going to show you today is just for blend 1, which basically will be from face-to-face class to asynchronous material. But we also have all the parts related from basically synchronous online, synchronous online communication and asynchronous material. And we already done actually some webinar about the topic. I saw during the chat you guys actually are talking a lot about flipping classroom. Actually, we have a webinar just talking about how to flip the classroom using our technology. And so if you guys are interested in take a look, you can actually follow our YouTube channel and you can go watch that specific webinar. But for today, actually, we're going to focus on the blend kind 1, which is basically going to be we're going to show you how you can create content easily using our platform, and then how to distribute this content to your students, and then at the end, how you can track the performance of the students and give feedback about their performance. And that is really well connected to basically from a face-to-face interaction to online interaction. I saw also during the chat, you guys were discussing about the complexity of creating material to be actually in an online and digital world. We are solving much of this problem because we make really simple decoration on the material. So Nicole, please, can you share your screen so we can actually go and share with you actually how our platform works and how easy it is actually to create the material. So the first step is here we are actually in the dashboard of our platform. And you can see this actually from the teacher side. So right now, Nicole is logged in as a teacher. So we'll be teacher Nicole. And she's an English teacher. So this one actually is a platform we created for a demo. But usually what we do is we white label the platform for the school or institution that we serve. So basically everything can be customized in a white label solution for the school following all the branding elements. So right now, actually, our platform, actually, there are two different parts. One is what we call the learning management system part, which is all related to creation of content and consumption of content. And the other part is all about the synchronous part, which we're not going to touch for today, because otherwise we'll take 1 hour just to explain that part. So we just focus on the content management system and learning management system. So right now, actually, Nicole is going to create one lesson. So imagine actually Nicole just finished a face-to-face class with their students, and they talk about some specific topic. Maybe it was a business class, right? And now Nicole wants to create some content and digitalize the content that was discussed during the class to go in a digital format, and then to blend basically the offline to online world. So Nicole is going to create a lesson. It's called Office Talks. Okay. Yeah. So the topic will be about Office Talks, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's going to upload some audio, but she can also upload videos. So the platform supports multiple multimedia content.
Okay. The meeting starts at 10 a.m.
Okay, great. So actually our objective here is to make really fast and simple the creation of this content. So we use AI to do speech to text.
Let me try with another sentence. Please send an email to the customer as a reminder.
Okay, great. So in this case, actually, the platform is set up to teach English to Italian students. So as you can see here, we have the English sentence, which is the target language point with the Italian translation. I think it's okay, Nicole, like just 2 sentences for the demo, otherwise it will take too long. But of course, you can add all the material and content that you're teaching during the class. Here we also have a dictionary integrated in our system, so Nicole can also select the target vocabulary that she wants her students to focus on during the class. And that's it. So basically, this actually, the language content is now, our AI system will elaborate some exercises. So the kind of template we chose, this time it was for comprehension. So the kind of exercises that are generated are more for like listening comprehension. And so you can see a lot of like listening exercises or also like some word quiz. But Nicole also wants to go one step forward and wants to also create some, some homework, basically to test the production. So to let the students actually do some production activities.
I have prepared one homework for the student already. So.
Okay, so there are actually different variations of homework you can create using the platform. So in this case, actually, this simple homework, which is describing an image and using at least 80 words, I think. Okay, great. And the next one, maybe Nicole, we can create a speaking production activity.
Sure.
Maybe so as you can see, Nicole can select many different kind of what we call modules, which are basically different kind of interactive exercises that can be added to the lesson in order to really customize according to the specific learning objective that the teacher has for the class. And I want to state that actually we're giving the power to the teachers to really customize the content based on what has been actually the content discussed during the class. So, and we believe actually this would be really powerful blending, because it actually like the students can really learn the same topic and the same content. It's not going to learn from third-party content providers, but actually the teacher has the power to easily create the content for the class. So right now, actually, Nicole completed the creation of the lesson. As you saw, it takes really like a few minutes to generate all these interactive exercises. Thank you so much, Nicole. So let's now change hat. So Nicole will now go from being a teacher to being a student. So now we're going to see how a student actually can interact with those interactive exercises. And so this is actually the dashboard from the student side. The student will have on the side menu, will have actually is a classroom. And the classroom is basically the environment where actually the student can interact with the teacher and can interact with other students. For example, we have a forum, like Sophia described about the importance of discussion inside the classroom with the forum. And actually the forum here is connected to the interactive material. And so the students can actually interact and chat and also share multimedia material between each other. And I'm also really interested actually in reading more about Sophia research about forums, because we might take some of this inspiration to implement some of those functionalities in our forum. And then actually we have the section related to curriculum. So the curriculum is basically all the lessons has been uploaded by the teacher inside the classroom. So you can see actually the number one is Office Talk, which is actually the lesson that Nicole just created. And what we can do is that the student can actually do the exercises. So can enter inside the lesson. And here you can find different kind of exercises that have been actually designed from the teacher to the student in order to practice specific language points and specific skills. And here actually we can have really a multitude of exercises. If you think about all those gamified platforms like Duolingo, Buzo, and so on, we replicate basically most of those kind of exercises and can be actually uploaded in the platform. So we really want to give the tools of those really powerful platforms to educators to actually create their own content. Okay, great, Nicole, good job. And so here actually we can also check the the exercise that she creates. This is actually we call homework, because actually the student needs to do some production activity. Nicole now is cheating because she's copying the homework. I saw actually many of you were talking about plagiarism and how to make sure that the students are not copying from other resources. Actually, it's a really interesting discussion that I think we can use AI to detect if the student is actually copying from other resources, even if they are copying from different languages. But yeah, that's actually a great discussion that we may have later. And so here the student actually submit the first production activity, which is about writing. And now the second production activity will be about speaking.
I start working at 8 a.m. every morning.
Great. So yeah, so great. So the student now finish is the asynchronous part of the class, and is now we're jumping back to the teacher side. So we're now to show you how the teacher actually can see all the results from the students and actually collect all the feedback and give feedback to the student. So this is actually what the teacher interface is. So she can actually see all the classes that she's teaching, and now she can go in the curriculum and actually go and check the performance of the student. And yeah, so you can see that the student Henry Wells, which was Nicole, is performing actually 60% of the class. The teacher can also filter what are the right answers and wrong answers divided by skills, and can also go and mark the homework. And so basically here the teacher can mark, give a rating, like it would be 9, and can give a feedback. By marking the homework, actually, the student will get a notification and an email. We can also send emails to parents. So actually, we have this kind of like a really easy to use and complete interaction between the teacher and student, and to blend really well with the face-to-face interaction. Okay, so that's a little bit, just to give you a flavor of some part of our technology. I don't want to go too deep in describing all the different features, otherwise it will take too long. What I would like to do now is actually like to jump to the Q&A. So, I mean, for both Sophia and I, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we would like to answer to you.
Exactly.
Okay, maybe Nicole, you can pick some questions and you can call us out so we can answer.
Okay, I'm just trying to go through all of them. So, okay, the first one comes from the platform and it's about the languages. So does this platform work in a range of languages? I think that you, Giuseppe, already mentioned it, but if you want
to... I will actually clarify the languages. Yeah, the one we show today is actually for learning English. And not only for learning English, it's like for learning English from Italian. As you saw, like there is also translation and dictionary integrated. We can customize the platform in order to have many different language pairs. The languages we support right now are Chinese, English, French, Spanish, German, and Italian. And the source language, actually the language of the student can be actually many, many different languages. So those are the languages we support right now. But we're always trying to expand to new languages, which is actually really interesting. So I just see Lamis ask, oh, how about Arabic? Unfortunately, we don't support Arabic right now, and that actually would be amazing to start supporting it. I would love to learn Arabic as well, but right now I'm stuck with Chinese. Actually, I'm in China right now, and I'm it is already like a pretty complex, but we are looking forward to expand to other languages such as Arabic. So stay tuned, and those languages might come soon.
Yes. Then we have a question, this time for Sophia, and it comes from Mimi, I hope to pronounce it well. And it says, is it possible to have a synchronous face-to-face and a synchronous online, for example, hybrid lessons?
Yeah. So hybrid is a different modality. Again, it's not new, but because of the pandemic, because of the needs that the pandemic generated, it became more popular. Of course it is possible, but again, we need to take into consideration a lot of pedagogical issues that arise, because my research now, you will need to go to my website and go to publications, and you will find a research report that I did with a team of professionals, among them Chris as well, Chris Farrell. So we worked on hybrid learning, and what we found is that schools were not exactly pedagogically prepared. So in hybrid learning, the pedagogy needs to be very strong, and the technology. If you just have a computer there, you know, facing students in class and also projecting the students, the sound will not be good, and the experience is not going to be good. So you need to take care of the technology, of the pedagogy, and how these two can be combined, more so in hybrid learning, because, as you said, you combine the face-to-face and the online at the same time. So there are a lot of issues because it involves a lot of multitasking from the teacher. But I don't want to sound negative, because I'm not. What I am negative about is just applying hybrid learning without solid foundations with regards to the pedagogy and the technology. Okay. But have a look at the report. Have a look at the report. You will find it in my website, in the publications, and read it. And it will give you lots of interesting insights and some ideas about good practice.
Okay. So then we have another question regarding Edugo.AI Platform. So does it have extra features? So.
Yeah, actually, like today, as I mentioned, we didn't have the time to go through all the features. Otherwise, it will take a long time. But yeah, we have extra features and are more in the domain of the synchronous part. So we actually developed a system that is for synchronous communication. So it's kind of like Zoom, but it's really specific for language learning. So we built actually specific tools really custom made for teaching languages. And not only like during the video call, but also we record all the content of the video call, and we have AI that is processing the content and then it's generating all these kind of interactive exercises after the class is over. So that's actually the second big part of our platform. Of course, we have a lot of other features, such as like managing payment, measuring scheduling, managing all the teachers in the platform, managing the content, sell the content, creating courses and putting price tag, and so you can sell to students. So there is a lot of other features, but I will say that is the other big one that I wish I could have the time to show today, because it really fits together with the Blend 2 category that Sophia mentioned. But yeah, if you guys are interested, again, you can watch the other webinars where we are really extensively covering those other features.
Exactly. So in fact, now I think that the time, it's already 1 hour that we are speaking. So for all the other questions that you have, do not worry, because we are going to reply to you by email, as well as you can contact both Sophia as well as us at Edugo.AI. At the link here that you see, you have the website, you have all the channels, so you can find all of us here. So after this, I'd say thank you to all of you for being with us. Thank you, Sophia, and thank you, Giuseppe, for the interesting presentation. And stay tuned. Please be in contact with us. And that's it. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank you, Nicole and Giuseppe, for the invitation.
That was great, Sophia. We really learned a lot from you. It was a great inspiration. And also from my side, which are like a technology developer, I think I got a lot of value from your presentation, a lot of inspiration. So it was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.